Hey everyone, welcome back to Apollo Art Analysis. This episode, we're going to be checking out a piece by the established AI generative artist known as Proxima Centauri B. This episode, we're going to be talking about framing through placement, we're going to talk about the nostalgia of early tech, and we're also going to talk about the idea of technology as just the next step in creative evolution of nature itself. So let's jump right into it. So whenever you first see this work, you're met with the lone subject. It's kind of sitting here observing this computer terminal here, right? Certainly catches the eye, and it's going to leave you a little speechless in that first introduction. There is this kind of ethereal shimmer that permeates every pixel of this piece, certainly catches the eye in that first introduction. And so in the realm of color, we have this main blue foundation, right? Certainly draws the eye, but aside from that, we have these additional hints of, say, gold, additional hints of red. Red already is a very visceral and high intention color. It's going to draw your eye to that region of the spatial composition. And aside from that, that use of color-based rarity certainly draws our eye to that upper right region. And as a result of that, we're caught by our subject and then caught by, say, our secondary subject. The emphasis of the piece is the flower here. All very important when we're looking at this work. And so the placement of our subject here is quite interesting, right? Of course, it does command the central region of the spatial composition. You're not going to miss her. But aside from that, she's also placed in this kind of framing area, right? This does frame her form, and it certainly draws the eye as well. We have this kind of dark on light silhouette, which casts the eye. You're going to be drawn to this, and then of course, you're going to fall onto this area as well. So really subtle use of placement and framing there for sure. And so our subject here, appears to be a woman just kind of sitting at a computer terminal of sorts. Her attention is kind of fully captivated by the screen at hand, right? Attention in and of itself is quite priceless. So to have this captured and captivate, she's just looking fully attentive on that subject there. So that's really important when we're looking at this work. So that direction of attention is always going to give this kind of emphasis, whether it's the theme or whether it's a certain element within the composition. So there's no doubt that this setting is very high tech, right? We have all of these kind of panels and, graphics and so many different things, different knobs. It's hard to say exactly what they do, but there's no doubt that this is a very kind of high tech home here, right? Almost feels a little cyberpunk-esque, but we don't see any dark themes here, right? Cyberpunk is normally authoritarian, but a work like this feels very bright and lively. So I really like that kind of take on the cyberpunk aesthetic, if you will. And so it's quite interesting, although we are in a very high tech setting, we have this bit of kind of the natural, right? Maybe a returning to our roots, but the artist actually sees this as the next step of nature itself. So we're going to go a bit deeper in that here in a second. But I find it incredibly interesting how, almost every pixel of this piece here is just possessed by this sci-fi aesthetic. And then you get to this area, kind of that natural scene there for sure. And so the artist was talking about kind of early technology and early internet in the 90s as, this sense of a more natural or kind of easier state back then. And I think that's really interesting. Whenever you first see this technology, what I call a novelty high, you see this new tech, you're absolutely captivated by it. And then say as time goes on, as we innovate on top of that, we kind of get used to the technology. It may feel a little mundane. So I think that's really interesting here. The artist was talking about, the 90s and early tech in general. It was already able to captivate our attention so well. We can also kind of draw that to the fact that the subject here is already captivated by that as well. I think that's really interesting. And so the early internet, of course, there is that sense of novelty, that extremely new frontier, an endless world of possibilities, right? And so the artist was talking about a sense of nostalgia for that time, or a more easier, even more natural state back then. I think that's really interesting. That early awe is just going to last with you throughout your entire life, and many people will feel that nostalgia as a result. And so, like I said, there is this kind of magic haze permeating the piece at hand, and it's quite strange, feel even divine in some ways. Like I said, it feels quite ethereal, so it's kind of possessed by this maybe even natural spirit here. It feels divine in a few different ways. So I think that's also really interesting. And so with this in mind, we're talking about early technology and everything like that, but the artist actually sees technology here as just the next step in the evolution of nature itself. So I think that's really interesting. Some people, they reject technology, they run away from it, they want to go back to nature. And I could understand that in many different ways, but the artist here is trying to convey that maybe this tech is just the next step in the evolution of nature itself. So I think that's really interesting. And so this is an AI generative piece, so it's made in Stable Diffusion. Really allows you to kind of specify your pool of sources that you want to create. Really interesting there as well. It is also a mixed media piece, so it's taken a little bit of digital paint on top of that. So you see, really unique aesthetic that's created by that. So I hope y'all enjoyed today. We talked about the nostalgia of early tech. We talked about framing through placement. We talked about so many different things here. I really hope y'all enjoyed. Like I said, this is an AI generative piece, so if y'all enjoyed, go check out the original artist, Proxima Centauri B, always doing some really good stuff. My name is Apollo. This was Apollo Art Analysis, and I'll see y'all on the next episode.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you'd like to support our work directly, please check out our Apollo community tokens. Apollo Art Exchange is an ecosystem of art appreciation which elevates artists each and every day. Thanks for listening.